Right, I was out in the Daimler recently, and everything was fine. But I stopped at a shop, and came back out and tried to restart, and the ignition switch was completely dead. Or at least it turns on the power to the ignition, but the starter was completely dead. So luckily, of course, this old car has a solenoid with a big rubber button on top, so I could start the car using the solenoid itself, and they say it's rubber override button, manual override. So that was fine. Used that a couple of times since, because the ignition connection is completely dead. So yeah, time to try and fix that. I was just going to try and see whether there's volts coming to the solenoid for a start when the ignition key is turned. Let's try and isolate whether the problem is with the solenoid itself, or maybe I'm losing volts between the ignition switch and the solenoid. So yeah, bit of diagnosis to start with. Just going to try and take off the wire from the ignition switch for a start, which is that one, and see whether there's any voltage on that when I turn the switch. Let's put this multimeter onto the wire if I can. Take that off. See the other one on anywhere Earth. In fact, I might as well put it straight on the battery, of course. Right, try the ignition switch. So there doesn't seem to be any faults on that wire. So it's probably not the solenoid, it's probably something between this red and white wire, which is the one from the switch to the solenoid. Maybe it's dropped off at the ignition switch end. So I might as well reattach this. This is a bit awkward to get this wire back on. Right, that's better. Go and explore the other end on the ignition switch. Try to give it glare off this shiny wiring diagram. But yes, the start solenoid is here, straight from the battery to the starter motor, driven by this black and white, red and white cable from the ignition switch. And there's this one for the ammeter as well, which comes off the battery side. So basically it's connected straight to the battery. My car is the other way around, by the way. I'm negative earth. This is the original wiring diagram. I changed mine years ago. So yeah, it looks like there's no connection, or at least I'm not getting 12 volts there when I turn the switch. So either it's this wire or this one, I guess, to the switch itself. Although it can't be that one because the switch is working. The switch is turning power on to the rest of the system, but not from this third pin. So the problem seems to be there somewhere. So just confirm I'm on the right track. If I press the manual button, the engine should turn, which it does. I was thinking if I put 12 volts directly onto that contact on the solenoid, just make sure that the solenoid is working. Right, let's try this. Yes, the solenoid's fine. I must be losing volts somewhere in the red and white wire between here and the ignition switch. So let's check that out. So it's the usual rat's nest of wires behind the dashboard. So I'm going to take this switch out I'll just push the switch back so I can get to it from the other side. So this is far from ideal, but so there's the switch, the ignition switch. It's got brown power coming in. The white ones are the power going out on the ignition switch is on, and the one here is the red and white momentary switch to the solenoid. So either this wire isn't connected to the solenoid, or there's something wrong with the switch, I guess. As I say, power is getting through to the white wires when the ignition is just turned to the on position. So I think what I'm going to do is take the red and white one off and see if there's continuity to the solenoid for a start. Right, let's check this continuity back to the solenoid. So let's see if this does connect. Yes, it does. You can hear that beep, but the multimeter's showing that wire is connected, so I guess it must be the ignition switch. So that's surprising. I will take it out and check it. So I'm going to have to remember where these wires go. So 3 is the one to the solenoid. It shows 3 whites. I think I've only got 2. And then the brown and white to the control box and the ammeter. Good. Okay, so here's the ignition switch, and sure enough it is labelled 1, 2, 3. And as far as I know, it's the original switch from the car. I didn't change it, certainly. So that is ignition on, and then the momentary starter. So let's see what happens on the multimeter. So 1 is the connection to the battery, which is there. So that rings through. 2 is the ignition on, which doesn't do anything, of course, because it's not switched on. So I turn that on, so that works. 3 is the solenoid, momentary, and that works as well. So I suspect it's just an intermittent connection. I kind of suspected that might happen. Must have got itself into, I don't know, goes knickers in a twist somewhere. Well, either it's the switch playing up, or one of the spade connectors perhaps come loose for some reason. But I mean, it did just stop working out of the blue. There was no symptoms before or after, so maybe it's just a momentary glitch. If I clean everything, stick it back together, it's probably going to be all right. I was wondering if I need to buy a new switch, but maybe not. I think I'll just clean it out with some gunge. Some of this, for instance. On the contacts. In the car, it's just this way up. So that drain hole, or that hole at least, is on the underside. So I'll just squirt some more stuff up here, I think. Flush that through. That looks a bit better. It would be possible to get this apart, but by prizing these dimpled attachments out and then the Bakelite part come out. But I'm not inclined to do that. Most likely make it worse. I could replace the switch, but I won't do that for now. I don't think that is the problem. I think it's more likely to be the one of the spade connections somewhere. Yeah, well, that works very consistently. Right, put it back together and see if it works now. So before I get any further, I'll just check that this works. Now it's wired up. So I can hear the ignition's on, pumps running. Oh, cool. So that seems alright. Let's put this spacer back on, which goes behind the dash. And obviously the nut on the front, so I can wiggle this back into the right place without disturbing any other wiring. So it is pretty crazy back here, isn't it? I'm sure a modern car would not tolerate this sort of mess. But still, I did fit an original, or not original, but a factory specific wiring loom to this one. I've rebuilt the car 45 years ago. So it's not the way it would have been in production, as far as I know. Okay, switch back on, or back in rather. Let's just see if it still works. So meters come on. Yeah, it's fine. So I think it must have just been a bad connection somewhere after all these years. So anyway, it seems to be working now, so that's good. And of course with the reassurance that if it does go again, I can always use the manual rubber button on the solenoid itself. Good, okay, thanks for watching.